My name's David Reynolds. I'm 42 years old. And until 2 years ago, I thought my marriage was the one unshakable thing in my life. My wife, Claire, was the kind of woman who made strangers stop mid-sentence. She had a way of making people feel seen, important, even if it was all for show. I fell for her in college, when I was too young to realize that charm could be weaponized. We'd been married for 16 years. We had a daughter, Sophie, who had just turned 13, and a son, Ethan, who was 10. On paper, we looked like the perfect suburban family in Charlotte, North Carolina. 2 kids, a nice home, 2 cars in the driveway. But underneath, I started noticing cracks. It began subtly. Claire started guarding her phone like it contained national secrets. Before, she'd leave it on the counter while cooking, notifications pinging without a care. Suddenly, it was always face down, on silent, and, oddly, always with her. Even during a 5-minute bathroom trip, she also started dressing differently. And I don't mean she started looking nice. Claire had always cared about her appearance, but this was different. Low-cut blouses for errands, new lingerie in the drawer, perfume strong enough to linger long after she left the house. I asked her about it once. She laughed, kissed my cheek, and said, "A woman's allowed to feel beautiful, right?" I wanted to believe her. God, I did believe her until I couldn't anymore. It was a random Thursday night. She said she had to stay late at work for a presentation. Something in me told me to check the GPS tracker in her car, a feature we'd installed years ago for safety. The app showed her parked at a Marriott hotel, not her office. I called her. She answered, slightly breathless, and said, "Still at work? What's up?" I said nothing, just hung up. My stomach churned, but I didn't drive to the hotel. Not yet. I wanted proof. Real proof. The next few weeks, I acted like nothing had changed. Smiled, kissed her goodbye in the mornings, played the part of the clueless husband. But I started gathering evidence. I installed a discreet camera in her car. I bought a tiny recording device and placed it in her purse when she wasn't looking. Within a week, I had hours of recordings, phone calls with a man named Ryan. She giggled, whispered, said things I hadn't heard from her in years. One line in particular burned into my skull. "He has no idea. I've got him wrapped around my finger." She was talking about me. The breaking point. The final straw came on our anniversary. She said she had to run out for a last-minute work crisis in the afternoon before dinner. I knew exactly where she was going. I drove to the Marriott and parked 2 rows over from her SUV. I waited. An hour later, she walked out with him, tall, well-dressed, his arm wrapped around her waist like she belonged to him. They kissed. Not a polite kiss, not a see-you-later peck. A deep, unapologetic kiss. My hands were shaking, but I didn't confront them. Not yet. I wanted her to walk into my trap. A month later, it was Claire's birthday. I planned a big dinner at our house. Friends, family, even Sophie and Ethan's teachers came. About 30 people packed into our living room. I put together a slideshow of memories, or so she thought. When it came time to play it, the screen lit up with our wedding photos, our first home, vacations with the kids, and then, without warning, the footage from her car camera appeared. Claire and Ryan, kissing, laughing, whispering. The audio from her purse played over the speakers. He's clueless. I'm just making sure I get everything I want before I leave him. The room went dead silent. You could hear forks clinking on plates. Claire's face drained of color. She stammered, "David, turn it off. This isn't," but I didn't. The footage played to the end, showing them walking into a hotel room together. She ran upstairs. Some guests awkwardly left. Others stayed, patting me on the shoulder or muttering that I'd done the right thing. My kids, well, Sophie cried. Ethan sat still, not saying a word. I told them I'd explain everything later, in a way they could understand. Claire tried calling me dozens of times over the next week. Then she emailed, saying I'd humiliated her, that I should have handled it privately. But the truth is, she had been playing me, using me, and dragging our family through her lies. She got caught in her own game, publicly and without an escape hatch. Where we are now, it's been almost 2 years. The divorce was brutal, but I have primary custody of the kids. I'm in therapy, trying to untangle the mess she left in my head. Last I heard, Ryan left her after a few months. Apparently, he didn't want to deal with her drama. Funny how the game changes when the player gets played. The days after the party. The night after the party, the house was eerily quiet. Sophie had locked herself in her room, sobbing into her pillow. Ethan was lying on the couch, staring at the ceiling like he was trying to solve a math problem no one had explained to him. I sat at the kitchen table with a cold cup of coffee, my phone buzzing every few minutes with texts from Claire. Claire, you destroyed me in front of everyone. Claire, we could have worked this out privately. Claire, do you know what you've done to our kids? The audacity was almost laughable. What I had done? No, Claire, what she had done. The next day, I knocked on Sophie's door. She didn't answer at first, but when I told her I wasn't leaving until we talked, she opened it, eyes puffy and red. I don't understand, Dad, she said. Why would she do that? I knelt down, choosing my words carefully. Sometimes, people make choices that hurt others. Your mom made choices that hurt me and all of us. But that's not your fault. And it's not Ethan's fault either. Her voice cracked. Does she still love us? Yes, I said, because it was the only thing I could say without making it worse. When I talked to Ethan, he didn't cry. He just asked one question. Are you going to make her leave? When I told him we weren't going to live together anymore, he simply nodded, as if he'd already made peace with it. News travels fast in suburban neighborhoods. Within a week, people were whispering about Claire everywhere. At the kids' school, at the grocery store, even at the gym where she used to be a regular. I heard from a mutual friend that Ryan had dumped her. Apparently, once the scandal broke, he didn't want to be tied to a married woman with baggage. She had moved into a small apartment on the other side of town. She called me one night, her voice trembling. David, I made a mistake. I didn't mean for it to go this far. Can we just talk? I stayed silent for a long moment before saying, Claire, this didn't go too far. You planned it. You hit it. You enjoyed it. And the only reason you want to talk now is because you lost him and you're losing your reputation. She didn't deny it. She just started crying. The divorce proceedings were ugly. She fought for custody, trying to paint me as an angry, vindictive husband. My lawyer, however, had the footage, the audio recordings, and witnesses from the party who could attest to what they saw and heard. The judge didn't buy her victim act. I got primary custody. She was granted visitation every other weekend. Claire's face, when the judge read the decision, was a mixture of disbelief and rage. She was a woman who had played games her whole life, and for the first time, she lost. 6 months after the divorce was finalized, I got a message on Facebook from an account I didn't recognize. It was a woman named Tara. She claimed she was Ryan's ex-girlfriend and that Ryan had a habit of targeting married women for fun before dumping them. He did the same thing to me, she wrote. Claire wasn't his first, and I promise you, she won't be his last. For some reason, hearing that didn't make me feel better. It just reminded me that Claire had thrown away a 16-year marriage for a man who saw her as nothing more than temporary entertainment. It's been 2 years since that night. I've rebuilt my life slowly, piece by piece. I don't date yet. My priority is the kids. Sophie is in therapy, and Ethan is starting to come out of his shell again. As for Claire, I heard she moved again, this time to another state. We barely talk except for arrangements with the kids. Sometimes late at night, I wonder if she ever lies in bed thinking about what she lost. But then I remember her words on that recording. He's clueless. I'm just making sure I get everything I want before I leave him. And I realized, no, she probably doesn't regret it. Not in the way I'd want her to. Because people like Claire don't regret losing you. They regret losing the game.